On this episode, we talk about Facebook ads and how the $1-a-day strategy, the Facebook Power 5, the 3x3 grid, and the KlientBoost Blitz Metrics and Bell Curve Facebook Blueprint can all be used to your advantage. And lastly, we wrap up with what you should actually do with your creative.
Ever wonder why some companies grow faster than others? What are they doing differently? And what are their secret ingredients? That's what this podcast is all about. Welcome to Boost Sauce.
Now, as always, this Boost Sauce episode is sponsored by KlientBoost, our own pay-per-click and conversion rate optimization agency, and Kite, our pay-per-click software that you can find on meetkite.com. We're going to be talking to three very special guests today. We have Dennis Yu from Blitz Metrics, we have Tim Chard from Bell Curve, and our very own Director of Paid Social, Matt Nelson.
Hey.
Hey, Dennis. How are you?
Good, bro.
Awesome.
Huntington Beach. I'm going to be in San Diego. I go to LA all the time. I should catch you part way.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's very close, but you know how it is. It's like a 4-hour drive between Orange County and LA at any given opportune moment. So we'll probably never see each other.
Yeah. I Ubered from LA down to San Diego just 3 days ago.
Oh, man. Okay.
I know.
Dang. Well, that's quite impressive. But Dennis, you know the name of the game in regards to this podcast. You have the co-host Matt Nelson, our Director of Paid Social here.
Hey, Dennis.
We're here to talk about Facebook advertising, and more importantly, everything that you do at Blitz Metrics, the things that you do for your clients, you know, whichever ones you feel comfortable mentioning. I know that you've done some case studies and stuff like that, but you know, if anybody is getting started with Facebook advertising, let's talk about the foundation first. Like, what do you care about if you were to say, hey, I really love you as a friend, I'm going to help you out and not charge you a thing? Like, what would you tell that person to begin with?
Plumbing.
All right.
Pixels.
Okay.
Digital plumbing. All the tracking. All the different tags inside one Google Tag Manager container.
Okay.
Because then you build your marketing audiences.
Right.
You can see the effectiveness of what's converting or not. You can look at cross-channel reporting. You can build audiences that go between email and social and Facebook. And for this friend that's fictitious that wants to grow their business, if they want to have success on Facebook, they have to bring something that's already working.
Okay.
See, Facebook's an amplifier.
Got it.
So if you put a $10 bill in the machine, you might get $100 back. Right?
Yeah.
Times 10. You put 0. You put an egg in the machine, you're going to get, 0 back. And so Facebook's the ultimate remarketing machine because it allows you to build these sequences. Right? If I consume video A from Matt, then I can show video B from Johnathan, and I can then show landing page C that features me or what have you.
Yeah.
And it's just building relationships one step at a time. And I think people miss that because they're so caught up in the tools and the changes and data and all that stuff.
The new algorithms. And it's interesting you say this because, in our world, we're very much direct response. Like, we got to prove money. And I know you do too, but you also talk a lot about the brand side of things and how that can help things out. Yeah. So you have this fictitious friend. You're figuring out the plumbing is now correct. You're using Google Tag Manager. The audiences are set up. Is there any type of audiences that you see perform differently for different types of businesses, or is it always following a certain recipe of like this audience first, then this, and then this?
Man, you used all the words I love. Thank you so much. We think about 3 stages in this funnel.
Okay.
Because we like to eat. Let's just say we have a 3-layer cake.
Got it.
We have awareness to consideration to conversion. 3 stages in that funnel. Google and Facebook, they use the same terminology.
Yeah.
The brand people are at the top. They're building awareness. They're entertaining. Coca-Cola and McDonald's are about being friends and eating chicken McNuggets together and getting diabetes together.
Dipping it in the boost sauce. And
it's a lot of people that are buying things. We have joint clients.
Yeah.
Chicken, I mean, I 20-piece chicken McNuggets for $5. I had some in Australia just because I wanted to see the conveyor belt and the automation they have that's going to come over to the U.S.
Oh, no way. Okay,
but
cool.
As a direct, it's amazing. But as a direct marketer, because we want to drive sales that come in through branded search and come in through keywords that are very obvious that you and I know.
Right.
We have to drive that initial intent, and Google calls that the 0 moment of truth, and I don't believe that's true. I call it the -1 moment of truth because people have to have heard about your brand, heard it from friends, heard it from somewhere else to then want to type that into Google. To then, when they see your ad on any channel, decide, you know what, I think I actually believe that enough, I'm going to click on it.
Right.
And so that's where brand marketing and direct marketing work together. That chasm in the middle is engagement. So how do you do both? Remarketing.
Okay.
the $1 a day, 1 minute videos are how you bridge brand marketing and make it effective and measurable and dollar-wise profitable for a direct marketer. So you can have your cake and eat it too, your 3-layer cake.
Wait, so let me stop you there for a second. So your $1 a day strategy is you're basically mentioning awareness, and then you're mentioning 1 minute videos. So if you put those three things together, is that the main premise of the $1 a day strategy?
You ever play tic-tac-toe?
I have, and I usually beat people because they don't know that you should always start in the middle.
That's right. And it's always a strategy.
Yeah.
So in this case, our strategy is we want 3 awareness videos on the top. That's the first row on the top.
Okay.
Right? In the middle, we want 3 engagement nuggets.
Okay.
Where you're sharing knowledge about how you do something. You're not selling, right? And in the bottom layer, you earn the right to sell. Okay. And what you're going to do is remarket. So if we label these boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then anyone who consumes videos 1, 2, or 3, these 1 minute videos, we're going to spend $1 a day and remarket them down into the next layer.
Okay.
So they can consume 4, 5, or 6. Anyone who watches at least 10 seconds of any video, 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to remarket down into 7, 8, and 9, which is another video. Or it could be a landing page, it could be a lead magnet.
Sure.
You know, messenger bot, whatever. I'm driving to the website, I want to ask for the money. So the beauty of remarketing on Facebook is that with video, and only with video, can you say, anyone who saw this one video, Johnathan, I want to show them this next thing in the sequence. Yeah. And I like to go against 10-second video views because it defaults to 2 or 3 second view. That doesn't really count because people are, they're still scrolling and they accidentally play the video. 10 seconds means they're paying attention. And that means I can then show them the next thing. Right. So maybe in an ideal sales journey, it would be 5 or 10 minutes of a long form video or a landing page that has different components necessary to bring people down the funnel, the IDA funnel, whatever version of your funnel. But let's say we break those into different components and then we allow them to trickle into the newsfeed and we let Facebook's algorithm determine what messages should be shown next. What's your favorite guilty pleasure, like on Netflix or HBO? What Game of Thrones is this weekend, right? The last one.
Don't talk about it. I'm still behind.
I actually never got my wife to buy into that, so I can't even talk about that.
I've never even seen one episode.
Oh, there you go. You and I are so alike.
We're safe.
But I can tell you that if you watch Game of Thrones, then is it HBO is going to recommend you might also like this show. If you buy something on Amazon, like I left my freaking AirPods in the hotel 2 days ago.
Dude, I love AirPods.
I wonder how many hotels is, or gyms have I've lost stuff in, charging cables and things like that. So I go to Amazon and I buy another one. Yeah. And it says, oh, well, people who bought AirPods, they also like this. People who bought this kind of, and I'm a big fan of popcorn. Okay. As in, I have a real movie theater popcorn, not the microwave nonsense. Yeah. This is people who bought this kind of popcorn, also bought these accessories, and also bought this. Yeah. That's the algorithm at work. Right. That's called a collaborative filter. It's the same thing on Amazon, on Apple, on Spotify, on Facebook. I would even argue Google. Okay. Spent time with Gary. We were both at Search Marketing Australia. The algorithm determines what's next. So if you feed lots of little pieces in these 3 stages of the funnel, the algorithm knows who is a knee-jerk or want-to-buy right-away impulse person, who is a tire kicker where they need a lot of information along the way, who's just sitting on the toilet and consuming funny videos but will never actually buy anything. That's also the algorithm knows all that. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if we allow the algorithm to do the work and we put the ingredients to allow the algorithm to dictate the journey of what the next step is for our users, then we look like we're amazing optimizers because the ROI looks good. We have our plumbing in place, right, like we talked about. And then it's just a matter of stacking more items, playing winner stay on. I know you guys at KlientBoost are killer when it comes to testing. Yeah. Like all the Zephyr stuff you're doing. I have stuff I'm probably not going to talk about. Yeah. But all the testing that's going on, and we're just doing the same thing on the Facebook side. We're just reusing things that are working well. We find a winner, we put more money on it. And the $1 a day strategy is, I initially put $1 a day for 7 days. So I'm spending $7 on a piece of content. Right. Yeah, it's not much. But if it meets some basic standards, like people are actually watching the first few seconds of it. Sure. Facebook's optimizing to what they call a through play, which is they watch all the way through, just like it sounds, or at least 15 seconds. So if I'm getting through plays for 3 cents on one of these videos and the other videos is up at 30 cents, well, that tells me something, right? It means that the people don't like it, and the cost of my remarketing audiences is really high. So I probably need to find another way to do that. Maybe my intro isn't very good. Maybe there's not motion. Maybe I've got the wrong targeting. Maybe, there's all kinds of things that are wrong. And so as I continue to add more and more tests that I'm adding to this 3x3 grid, I'm going to eventually have my greatest hits where I have 3 awesome things for awareness, 3 awesome things for the consideration middle phase, and then conversion. What's the best way to get them to buy? Is it sale? Is it free trial? Is it a compelling story? Is it what is the price? Whatever it is,
For sure.
And that's all you really have to do. Anybody, and we find that it works whether it's you're selling insurance or real estate or paper towels or ice cream or real estate. I mean, whatever you're selling, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. We've done the same thing for Red Bull. Okay. The same thing also works for the local dentist. The same thing works for, we sell people's, or you can get your face on a pair of socks at our site, one of our test sites that we run through Shopify. It's on Blitz Gifts, right? You have your face on a pillow. You can have your face on oven mitts. And it works for a business like that. Now, what would be in common between a business that ships socks with your face on them versus a high-end luxury real estate agent in Orange County?
Nothing at all.
You think nothing. From the content standpoint, nothing.
Yeah.
But from a strategy standpoint, because it's the same algorithm, that's determining what's showing up in your newsfeed. It's the same algorithm that determines, hey, if you're on Amazon, you buy this. Here's other stuff you might like.
For sure.
And the more competition there is, the more powerful the algorithm is, because the higher the filter power is, because it means more and more stuff can't be shown. The algorithm has to be smarter about what's being shown. And all we do is let the system work in our advantage, for our favor, instead of trying to cheat it and play all kinds of SEO games, right? All the different games. Right. The SEO people are the worst when they try to do Facebook ads, because they try to play their old games.
Dennis, you literally just gave us 30 nuggets there, so that was awesome. You mentioned you do a lot of testing to kind of find those, top 3 in each category in the funnel, those heavy hitter videos. Yeah. Once you have that, that secret sauce and you have those 9 videos that are just crushing it for you, at what point do you start, start to exhaust them and realize, all right, hey, I might need to start switching these videos up again. And now that they've maybe fatigued and whatnot, what's your process when you start hitting that wall there?
Man, I probably answered that question 100 times in the last 12 years, ever since we started advertising in May 2007. But I have a different answer now.
Ooh, here we go. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. Now, what I used to say is that that's my own chicken McNugget.
Okay, there you go.
I got, instead of the 20-pack, I got the 30-pack, the dentist size. It's not super size, it's dentist size. But usually when ads start to burn out or the CPA starts to go up, then it could be the audience has been maxed out. And it could be maxed out because you're selling Christmas trees and now it's January. Or you're only targeting people in a very narrow area, like people who are really hardcore about a particular thing like guns. And well, actually, there's a lot of them in the U.S. Or whatever it is, you exhaust that audience, and then you have to expand out to things like lookalikes, or expand out to interests that are not quite as tight, but are bigger, right? So you have a quality-quantity trade-off. And then maybe you bid down a little bit lower. Or maybe you're running off of a remarketing pool, and you need to increase the size of that remarketing pool so you have more yield down in your DR side, right? But that's the traditional way of looking at things. What I found in the last year with Facebook in particular is that once the system has figured out what's converting, if you have at least 50 conversions per week per ad set, which is their rule for conversion, then you can run untargeted against the entire United States. Unless there's certain things like, legally you have to target 18 plus or certain kinds of restrictions. But once the system knows what's working, the oxymoron, or the irony or catch-22 is that you can actually run untargeted, because if the objective at the bottom of the funnel is conversion, the system will sub-target against whatever target you have. And thus any targeting you draw around any audience puts Facebook in handcuffs where it can't go outside of that region that you drew. Even though you could say like, hey, I'm selling, women's whatever kinds of stuff. But and so therefore you target just women.
Right.
But maybe there are some men that would buy it, because some men want those products. Who am I to judge? Maybe they're buying it as a gift to their wife. And so I'm just going to run untargeted.
Right.
Or, you know what? I really know that my demographic is males 40 plus who are veterans and military and first responders. Yeah, that might be true. But there's also other people. There still are other people that are 20. There's still people that are females. There's still people of all walks of life, not quite as high density. But when you allow the algorithm to draw beyond your area, it can find, the filter power is so strong, it can find those people efficiently at the target CPA that you have. So when it's working, you set a manual bid, you duplicate that ad set multiple times over. So now you have multiple audiences. Each one is trying to seek as many conversions as possible at your target CPA. If you've chosen conversion as your objective,
right, not
website clicks, which is how you blow money.
Right. Crazy. I have a quick question because I want to talk about other things too, but basically let's reiterate the 9 boxes, so to speak, of the 3 videos. So you mentioned at the top you have awareness. Is that, and then the second layer down was like the more knowledge sharing type of videos. So for the awareness, like let's say that we're a service-based business, like you and I are in the agency world. What would you recommend those top 3 boxes of those videos be about? And do they all have to be different, or can they talk about the same thing?
You want them all to be relatively different because you're going to create variations against each one to find winners. So we talk about why, how, and what, which is the top, middle, and bottom of the funnel. Okay. So why, Simon Sinek start with why. So why is, when I was 18, I dropped out of high school. I wanted to be a professional athlete. True story. I wanted to run for Nike, but I didn't make the world qualifying times. And therefore, people can identify. Think about how you identify with Rocky or, Harry Potter, and all these Hollywood stories are around some kind of protagonist that you identify with. They go through some kind of challenge, and then at the end they win. They kill Voldemort. Right. They beat the Russian guy in Rocky or whatever it is. Right? You understand that's a 3-part hero's journey story arc, right? So that's what we're doing too. But we don't have to do Hollywood cinema style like $1 million budgets. We use our iPhones and we interview customers. We interview subject matter experts. We interview our founder. We give stories ourselves if we're an agency owner, right? Johnathan, you're the face of KlientBoost, like it or not, right? I do like it. We're journalists and we're collecting the stories that have some kind of, something that happened. Like I was cut off at Whole Foods yesterday and I was going to get pissed at this lady, but then I remembered that, everyone is dealing with internal challenges, so I decided I would be kind. And then, I tell a story, and from the story I then extrapolate into some kind of mission, some value, some meaning, something that my audience will identify with.
And that's the knowledge level? And the second level?
So that's the why. Yeah. The why is getting people to identify with you, to like you. You're talking about shared experiences, things that you believe in. And so if we are a tribe and we believe that something is important, that, the environment's important, or that being able to spend time with our family and go surf at the beach at Huntington Beach is really nice. Whatever it is, we believe in certain things, which is really saying, hey, we are the same. This is our persona. Then we also believe that we're going to take these particular steps to hit that goal. So we believe means there's this thing off in the distance that this land that we're heading to that we believe is very important. It's so valuable to us. Therefore, here are the steps that we're going to take, and we're going to equip you with the steps. Here's the knowledge on how to get there. Any goal, any mission that's worthwhile, you can break down into steps on how you get there, the recipe like we talked about. Okay. And then when you share knowledge, so let's say I share a story about, my family's really important because of the story that happened. I tell the story and then I say what it means. I don't say what it means because if I say what it means first, then I've robbed them of the opportunity to experience the journey with me. Then I can give tips on how to become a family, how I'm a good family man, how I protect my family. Yeah. Special ways that I say that I surprise my wife with good tips, or things that I do to make sure my children turn out the way I want, or here's my self-defense. What happens if you get bullied? There's all different kinds of how do you do certain things. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. For example, I can tell you that yesterday, I went through the airport security with nothing but my iPhone, no credit cards, no wallet, no nothing, because I lost it 3 days ago. How did I do it? I had Clear, so I just put in my fingerprints. I was also going through Milwaukee yesterday. They didn't have Clear. Yeah. What happens? They bring over the TSA phone and they verify, can you tell me the cross streets where you live, or what's the color of your roof, and they're looking at your thing on Google Maps. So I'm sharing expertise on how do you get around certain situations. Yeah. Oh, that's really fascinating, right? So the why might be, let me tell you, I love to travel and to be an entrepreneur and run my agency from all over the place. And, I was in Hawaii 4 days ago and I enjoyed some things in Hawaii. And I can tell some stories, right? And then people want to know how. Now I'm showing how do we manage our agency? Yeah. How do we train our people? How do I get to security, right? And then the what is, oh, and the way we pay for all of this is that we do Facebook ads.
Right.
And here's how we do it. And so it is just naturally from why, how to what.
I was like so
and it
impressed.
Doesn't have to follow that sequentially.
Well, and that was the crazy part. I was going to ask, because you have 3 videos in the first batch, for example. So if somebody watches video 2, can they watch any video of the next 3, for example? Like, does that story flow together quite nicely that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
That they don't have to connect. You see, the idea of why, how, and what is there's many examples of why stories. It could be any customer. It doesn't have to be like the idea of a topic wheel, which is a whole other thing. Is when you think about your brand, what are the other topics that are just outside of it? Self-defense, patriotism, loyalty, honoring America, being a first responder, the Second Amendment. I mean, just all these different things, right? There's all these different areas of knowledge that tie to the product. Then from those areas of knowledge, I tie those back to people that have various stories. And so Facebook's newsfeed is nothing but a bunch of stories. And so I need to get stories in there as 1-minute vertical videos off of public figure pages that I boost for $1 a day to build remarketing audiences. And those remarketing audiences sequence to other items that are at that same level or below. So videos 1, 2, and 3, you can then watch any other videos 1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
If I remarket down to the next layer and now someone, Matt's watched video number 5, he could watch video number 4 or 6, or he could watch 7, 8, or 9.
Right.
Which don't have to be videos, but ideally they are.
Do you exclude Matt?
I can remarket off of.
Do you exclude Matt from them watching like videos 1, 2, and 3 once he's taken that next step? Like he's watched at least 10 seconds?
No, because Facebook knows where people are in the sequence. We're relying upon Facebook to do the work for us.
Okay.
Because Facebook's going to show. Facebook's very good at showing you what you actually want to see.
Yeah.
Even though you claim you don't want to see it, people will claim that they don't like Donald Trump. Well, then stop clicking on Donald Trump,
right?
Because you're feeding the algorithm that stuff, right?
Yeah. Dennis, when starting the why section of it, you mentioned that you only like you recommend doing conversion oriented actions, not optimizing for link clicks. Even on the why step, do you recommend staying with a conversion action rather than link clicks?
I like so the why at the top of the funnel,
or more so video views.
To go for video views or boosted posts. And I know that Facebook says not to boost posts, but it works really well. And we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars boosting posts.
Yeah.
And you and I know Facebook says certain things, and their account managers are supposed to say it, but what they say isn't necessarily what works. So
True.
The same thing with Google too.
Yeah, I was going to say, not just Facebook.
Yeah, maybe eventually it'll work.
Are you coughing about CBO?
I'll try.
Cough, CBO?
CBO is another issue that we're all going to be forced to use later.
Yep.
I think that if CBO is meant for, it's like training wheels for people that don't know how to set budgets. So
What's
it's giving
CBO?
Facebook the flexibility. Campaign budget optimization, to be able to spread budget between ad sets up into the campaign level.
Got it.
And it's something that we can opt into now, and we'll be forced to do it later, but I think you should just go ahead and do it now. They always give you like a 6-month grace period, but you should just go anytime they have stuff like that, just go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, let's resist till the last day. Just kidding. That's what we did with the Google Ads interface rollout. We're like, all right, we're forced to know this now. So cool.
And there's different ways that Google and Facebook both try to expand the audience on you because they know that people will like micro target too far.
Right.
There's 3 or 4 different ways they try to expand the audience. Now, audience expansion on Facebook, I wouldn't do that because they're not very smart about it. But lookalike audiences, yes, I would do that. That's a form of audience expansion.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Or, exact to broad match. Or those are all ways of audience expansion. Oh, you should add these keywords too that they suggest. Maybe not.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So with the $1 strategy, this sounds amazing, by the way, and we can make in the notes too, and like how you basically can execute that, how you can create an audience to move them through. I wanted to talk about any other recipes that you find successful beyond the $1 because my other question, I guess, let me go really back quickly to the $1 day. If you have budget for more than that, can you increase your budget to more than $1 a day? Is that allowed?
Oh, absolutely. We see big brands where they say, I have $1 million a month budget, and this $1 a day thing for small businesses. This is, that won't work for us.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it will, because you initially start with $1 a day on any particular post.
Right.
or whatever it is that you're testing. And maybe you have whatever, 5 or 10 new ones that you're testing per day. And each of them are starting to spend $1 a day. And we know that 90% of our stuff on average will fail. And that's just how it is, no matter what the industry is. Well, maybe the exception is the Golden State Warriors. Their win rate's way higher just because anything with Steph Curry,
it's annoying.
It just seems to win.
But good for you.
It just seems to go in,
Yeah, I get your point. Wink, wink. We all know.
But hey, 90% of stuff is going to fail. And we don't know. Like you and I know because we're pros, us three, that we'll put out 10 different ads and we think, oh, this one's going to be the winner. And you know what? It's this other one. And in hindsight, it's because of this reason. But 90% of our tests are going to fail, and that's why we rely on the data. And so we put out lots of these things, and the ones that win, we're going to put more money on. We'll put another $30 for another 30 days. And then we look at it again. Then we put another $100 for another couple of weeks. And then pretty soon, after 4 or 5 rounds of upping the budget, now we've spent $10,000 on this one thing.
Right.
We ran a campaign with Infusionsoft. We put $3 million on one ad, one video ad. But do you think we just said, okay, we'll just put it all on
bet all on that, yeah.
No, we initially put literally just a few dollars on it. And we put more, and then we kept putting on more. And Facebook put a case study about it, and Sheryl Sandberg signed a plaque and sent it over and that whole kind of thing.
No way.
They do that if you spend a lot of money, just like Google does the same thing too. They I don't know who does better gifts. They're both very good. Right? You spend a lot of money. But the thing is that a lot of people will look at these case studies that Facebook showcases and they'll think like, oh, I could do that. And we try and it doesn't work. Like, oh, it doesn't work.
Right.
Well, what you don't see is that before we had that one winner that was driving tons of leads for super cheap for Infusionsoft, they're now called Keep, but they're still Infusionsoft to me, that we had dozens, maybe even like 100 different videos that we made.
Dang.
All different ways of trying to get people to do a free trial, or talking about how email is difficult, or all the different pains that small businesses have with marketing automation.
Right.
But it was just this one where Natalie was taking this piece of paper that had an email icon on it and ripping it in half and saying, email, I'm breaking up with you. Right. And that caught their attention. That was the one because it caught their attention. And then it talks about how Infusionsoft saves you pain and time and this sort of thing. And you should try a free demo now. And it was a 15-second video ad. And it killed it on Instagram and just in general getting people's attention.
Yeah.
But we would have never have known because we tried all these different ways, things with the founders of Infusionsoft, all kinds of cool tips on how you get into the inbox or like whatever kinds of stuff. But it was that one that won and we never would have known. And that's the thing is that every time you see a marketing winner, because all you hear about is winners on the podcast, right? And conferences. You just hear about like, wow, I lose all the time. What's wrong with me? all I do is hear, why is it that all these other people are winning all the time and I lose all the time? It's because they don't talk about their losses. Right. I lose all the time. Somebody asked me on a podcast a couple of days ago, oh, so Dennis, when was the time that you felt like, you were successful? Or like, at what point did you become successful and then everything was happy and rainbows and unicorns after that? And I said, never.
Still
and
not
I've
to
been
this
doing
day.
digital marketing for 23 years.
Yeah.
I have 70,000 hours of experience in digital marketing. You heard the 10,000 hour rule?
Yeah.
I have 70,000, not 17, 70.
Yeah.
And I still don't feel like I'm a winner or successful.
Right.
Or maybe it's imposter syndrome or what have you. And so we all need to adopt that mentality of we're always testing, we're always humble, and let the data tell us what's winning instead of, I think this one's better. Oh, okay, let's put $1 a day behind it. Let's see.
So to get really cute about it, there was this one quote I read like maybe a week ago or something like that, and it's basically what you're saying. It's like the last thing to show from planting a tree is its fruit, right? And so, like you're saying, everybody's showing their fruit at the conferences or on the podcast, but to get to that point, they had to go through a lot of patience and trial and error. It seems like. That's incredible. So I know that we're coming close to like the time. Are you okay to stay with us a little bit longer, or do you have a hard cutoff?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
No, we're great.
Let's talk about some other recipes. We talked about the $1 a day. Is there anything else you can share with us in regards to, campaign structure, optimization routines, like anything like that you have found to be more of a recipe for you?
Yeah. Fewer ad sets.
Interesting.
Broader targeting.
What?
Yeah. Unless even the guys that are spending $100,000 a day.
Yeah.
Fewer ad sets, larger audiences, because we want to let Facebook do the work for us.
Okay.
all too often, especially with the little guys who don't have enough budget to even support getting to 50 conversions per ad set per week at the bottom of the funnel, they go crazy. Like, this is how you can tell when someone is a beginner. Like, they're a total noob if they think all about targeting. They think it's all about the targeting. No, it's not. The limiting factor is always the creative, and the limiting factor in creative is 1 minute vertical videos.
Okay.
And so one of my friends, Matthew Janusek, he is the CEO of Escape Fitness. They've been making barbells and fitness equipment for 24-hour fitness lifetime. They're like one of the players.
Okay.
And the guy's fit, about to turn 50. And I worked out with him recently, and I said something like, just for fun, you know what? I worked out as hard as I could yesterday for 4 hours, and I don't have six-pack abs. Your whole thing's a scam. True. Well, it takes time, and it takes the process, and, you know, like you said, it takes a while to make fruit. You can't just plant the seed and then dig up the seed the next day and see if there's any fruit, and then the next day you dig it up again. And like, there's a little like root coming out of the seed now.
Yeah.
You know, and then a week later there's like a leaf coming out. Like, no, you can't be digging up the thing every day. And that's what happens on Facebook, is that advertisers, they make an ad and then they look the next day and say, didn't convert.
Right.
Wait a minute. We got to trickle everything through our digital plumbing, through the different stages, from awareness to consideration to conversion, and whatever the normal life cycle is for people to make a decision. Like, what's the life cycle on average for, you know, dating to marriage? Maybe like 12 to 18 months, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time to build relationships. You can assess the different stages along the way and what kinds of videos may speed people along, but Facebook is about building those relationships at the top of the funnel all the way down. That means simpler structures, longer time periods, larger audiences, so that you can see what's working according to the standards of excellence. So top of the funnel, I'm looking at video views. Middle of the funnel, I'm looking at things like leads and messenger bot, chats, or people signing up for events like webinars, or watching a video for a longer video that's maybe 5 minutes, or reading a blog post.
Yeah.
Or which could be website click, because if you're sending people to a website, in the bottom of the funnel, of course, is the conversion, the ROI, getting the phone call, like whatever it is, it's a conversion. And that simple 3-stage funnel usually means most people need 3 campaigns. Maybe they need more.
Yeah.
So with Delta Defense, we have more than that, because there are multiple stages in conversion there. But generally, you only need a few campaigns. Within each campaign, you need just a few ad sets. And the limiting factor is always the creative. So if your 3x3 is working, then everything else should work if you set the right objectives, if you understand when to turn things on and off. You don't have to come in and touch things all the time.
Right.
We're not saying you can't go in and adjust bids and budgets and all that, but a sign of someone who is a novice is they're in there turning knobs every day.
Right.
And every time
Google,
you turn a knob,
algorithm can never stop optimizing.
Yeah, it resets the ad rank. Dodos can't do that, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you have something you want to test, go ahead. Like, don't be afraid to make a change, but don't be like making 20 changes per day, thinking like that's somehow a sign of you being a smart optimizer.
Right.
That's the gardener that digs up the seed every day.
Yep.
Like, why are you doing this?
Right. No, this is incredible, because I think so many people get obsessed. We have our own recipes. It's not as broad as what you just mentioned, and we prioritize our audiences too, but we have seen things on Facebook basically mimicking what you were saying from a success standpoint of being a broader targeting. And actually similarly with like a target CPA bidding on Google when you go more broad as well too. So, but like you said, it's, we don't give enough credit to the knowledge and the brains behind what Facebook and Google does sometimes too. And that can hurt us.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. Anything else we're missing that we haven't asked you, Dennis?
So this is something obvious, but everybody misses.
Let's talk about it.
Facebook is about people. It's about people sharing what they're doing and building relationships, and maybe even wasting time. Like, one of my bosses was Jeff Weiner, who's the CEO of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And he made a joke because he was kind of pissed that, because, LinkedIn is a social network. And he said, well, Facebook is where you go to waste time, and LinkedIn is where you go to invest time. And I thought, oh, that's really clever.
Yeah.
But another way of saying that is Facebook is where people have in-between moments. Like, Google is where people go where they're ready to buy something.
Right.
13% of people who go to Amazon.com buy something in that session. absolutely insane. Because when you go to Amazon, you're ready to buy something, right?
Right.
But when you go to Facebook, are you ready to take a particular action, or are you just kind of like, the high school cafeteria? You kind of want to see what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's your news feed, right? And so because of that, and it's because of what people want to see what other people are doing, it's a National Enquirer. Inquiring minds want to know. Then if you have stories of people doing things in 1 minute, and maybe it's entertaining or humorous or whatever it might be, these why stories to catch their attention, it works best when you have a personal brand at the top of the funnel. And you can have a multi-page strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You have public figure pages. Like it could be Tim Schmidt as a public figure page,
Mm-hmm.
or Kevin, or you, or me, or whoever. And then you can remarket from that to the central brand page.
Right.
Right? To the company page.
That's smart.
You can have many
I like
pages. So if we think about the Golden State Warriors, on the outside, you have all these stories that are being told by different players, by their families, by top fans, that can be coming from the Warriors,
Mm-hmm.
but it also could be coming from public figure pages, which are people. They look like people, but they're actually business pages.
Right.
And then we can remarket between all these different audiences. And we've done a test. Jake Paul, you and I know him. He literally took the same things that worked on the USCCA page, and he shared it at Traffic and Conversion Summit live in front of 1,000
Oh, wow.
on stage. And he shared, hey, we had this piece of content on what would you do in this situation, right? Like a guy comes to you and it's an aggressive situation. It's a gas station. This guy comes up to you, hey, dude, can you give me $20? Right? Oh, right? And we had it from the USCCA Facebook page, the company page. And then we took the same content and we shared it from the Tim Schmidt public figure page. We shared it from some other instructors, and it performed better. The same content performed better. Why? Why do you think it performed better?
Because it came from a person.
Because it looked like it came from a person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you guys ever follow WWE, or would you be willing to admit to that?
I cannot admit to that, but looks like Matt did. I didn't grow up in this country,
Right, so
actually.
you know who they
Stone
are,
Cold
right?
Steve Austin guy.
Yeah, man, classic. So we had WWE as a client for a few years, and we were doing some stuff, running ads for the John Cena page, promoting WrestleMania and the merchandise, pay-per-views. And we were doing the exact same strategy. There were things that we were doing off of the central WWE company page, but then off of the John Cena public figure page. Now, most kids and most people, I guess if they think it's fake wrestling, they probably don't know the difference between a profile and a public figure page.
Right, true.
But these people were commenting, saying, hey, John Cena, can I get your phone number or whatever it was? And, of course, I'm running the ads, but I can see these people, they're trying to message me.
Right.
And then I'll just reply back, oh, Alex, it's, I would love to spend some time with you and chat with you for 5 minutes, but I'm getting ready to, go work out now. I hope you're feeling good. Or I just replied, and then I made some young kid's day. I mean, they didn't know it's some old fat dude who was actually replying instead of John Cena, but I'm sure that kid told all his friends, oh, John Cena replied to me.
You got to give yourself more credit, Dennis. You were a previously aspiring Nike athlete, not some old fat dude.
I was, dude. I ran a half marathon in an hour 10 way back. That was almost 20 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
I can't even run 1 mile at that pace now. Can't even run 1 mile in 8 minutes now. Back in my day, we used to.
Yeah, that's what you sound like.
But the thing is that people want to engage with people. They want to build that personal relationship. When we were doing this for Nike, we had 2,000 pages because we had the central Nike Facebook page, but then we had all the athletes in Nike basketball, but then Nike basketball Japan and football. Right. We had all these thousands of these, and we did some tests. What do you think did better? LeBron James as a public figure page, Nike basketball, or the central Nike brand when we're launching a new shoe?
LeBron James.
Steph Curry.
Kobe.
LeBron.
Steph Curry's Under Armour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Dang.
Yeah, LeBron. Yeah, dang them. But why do you think LeBron did better than Nike basketball? And why did Nike basketball do better than the central Nike brand?
Because they're all subsets of the bigger part.
Yeah, because people want to engage with people.
Right.
So fine, if Nike replies back to you or you see a message from Nike, it just doesn't feel like you're talking to a person versus you see LeBron James post this little behind the scenes thing about how he's, dancing or whatever it is, or some thoughts he has. That's really cool, right?
That is cool.
It could be the same content. He's talking about this new shoe.
Right.
He could be talking about the Kia. Do you think LeBron James actually drives the Kia? Come on, right? But
he definitely doesn't.
You see on his page, he sees, he's in the Kia. He's talking about how he likes the Kia. Okay, I'm thinking, how much are you paid to say that?
Yeah.
But it's way more believable from his public figure page than it is from Nike or from Kia.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
That's what
really
people don't get.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
sense. The key to conversion is a lot of people think because they're direct marketers, and believe me, all of our clients are direct marketers too, meaning we have to drive sales to pay for our advertising, right? Yes, I want to make money, totally get that. But what do you think is going to work better in terms of convincing people? See, direct marketers think it's all about like tuning landing pages. Yeah, I get that. I'll change the button, what's the copy, what's the, like all those things that you do for landing page testing. Yes, get that. But what's the real thing that turns, that really, really makes it happen when it comes to conversion? It's that subconscious identification of, yes, I believe these, I will do whatever because I just fundamentally believe.
Right.
Like people believe in Apple products, so they believe in their favorite brand. They believe in McDonald's, even though, whatever, right? So if we have content that really ignites, and this is what brand does. Brand, when you're thinking brand and you're thinking emotionally, you're not thinking logically. You're either left brain or right brain. You're either drinking water and it's going down your esophagus, or it's going down your trachea and it's your air. Like you can't breathe and drink at the same time, right? And it's the same thing. You can't think logically and think emotionally at the same time. Branding forces you down the emotional path. And that's why we need to start with that, because then people will buy off of that instead of like the minute they're calculating price and features and logistics, now they've switched over to the rational calculating.
Right.
Facebook works because it gets people to buy from the other side, from the emotional side.
I never thought of that.
We've talked about that in the past. It's just great for those impulse purchases. It's just phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
But even big purchases like surgery. One of our clients is a cosmetic surgeon, and he'll sell a $50,000 job because of these stories where these women want to be accepted or beautiful, comparing against these other women, high society women, or what have you. People always buy based on the why, not just impulse. $10, like big decisions people make impulsively. They don't think they do, but they do. There's always two reasons when people buy. There's the real reason, and then there's the look good, rationalized reason. Like, oh, I got this car because it's got better gas mileage and safety ratings. No, you didn't. You want to get a sports car and you didn't like the old one, and whatever. Or my mom, she bought. Nordstrom's has their semi-annual sale, and she justifies how much money she saved.
Yeah,
that's your rational reason. But what's the real reason you bought all those shoes from Nordstrom? Right. So we're catering to the real reason people buy.
Yep.
But we're also giving them the fake reason so that way they can feel good about it. I have some friends who have bought private jets, and they tell me how it's actually saving them money to buy the jet versus, how much it costs to rent the jet and all that. I'm like, no, dude, it's costing you a ton. There is no justification. You're doing it because you can.
Because you want the jet.
Yes. Don't try to rationalize to me why you fly in first class. I've flown 1 million miles in first class. Can you believe that? It's crazy. I'm about to hit 5 million miles.
I'm still trying to convince Johnathan to get me one first class flight.
Well, do the upgrade. Do the thing where you buy, coach and then play the upgrade game on one. Like put all your miles in one airline.
I'm going to do that next time.
But I've sat next to these people in first class hundreds of times, and I ask them, "So you're here in first class, just but you could sit way back there for way cheaper, right? This ticket is $700, and the one back there is $200. Yes, the meal is nice. Yes, the seat is bigger, but why are you in first class?" You know what the answer was?
What was it?
Because I can.
Yep.
And it's not because, I'm flying international, I got a big meeting that's for millions of dollars and I need to have good sleep, or because I need to get off the plane faster. I mean, sometimes you have someone who's really tall and they do need to sit in first class. But most of the time, 90+% of the time, I've asked this question. Like, how many people, I'm in a weird position where I get to ask that question because I've flown first class so many times.
Yeah.
As an American Airlines employee, so I didn't pay. And so this gave me such a window into the world of why people buy.
Yeah.
And they buy because of because of what it means to them.
The emotion, that status.
I've worked hard for 20 years and built this company to be the CEO, and so I deserve to fly first class. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Like you're telling him, I grew up poor and I always had wanted to have these different things. My parents could never afford these things, and now that I have money, I always make sure that I order guacamole when I go to Chipotle. Right?
Yeah.
because I can afford it now. Or like, whatever it is, where it's like they're making the statement, yes, I'm ordering guacamole.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my favorite meme when it shows Leonardo DiCaprio just throwing the money off. Yes, I want the guac.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
that's what we have to appeal to, the emotional side.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what works on Facebook.
Yep. Plainly that emotional side, those impulse buyers, just really telling that story, and people want to have that sense of belonging. Well, Dennis, this has been awesome. You get another nugget for all that. It looks like we're out of time here, but thank you so much for being on with us today. You've dropped so many nuggets, and super excited to even start testing some of these, and hopefully people got a lot out of it, and I know they did.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew and Jonathan. It's awesome.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Tim.
Hey, Tim. Jonathan over here at Boost Sauce. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, you as well. And thank you for making the time. Our listeners don't know this, but you're actually in Maine, the state, on vacation. And we are ones like kind of pressuring you into being on this episode. So we want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. I'm in a remote cabin overlooking a beautiful pond.
That's amazing. And there are people in that pond, I heard too, huh?
Yeah, some dude's fishing. He's getting a little bit close for my liking, but yeah, it's a beautiful, peaceful place to talk about Facebook ads.
I love that. So for the people who are listening, watching, reading, for that matter, want to give a little quick intro about you, because we worked together in the past when you were at Espresso. You were the marketing director there.
Yep.
Now you're the agency director over at Bell Curve, which is, in my opinion, one of the sexiest designed agency sites that I've seen out there too. And you guys focus a lot on Facebook ads. Is that true?
Yep, that's true. We do a lot of ads, but primarily not primarily, but I would say one of the largest drivers is Facebook and Instagram advertising.
Yeah.
For all the clients we work with. A lot of startups, a lot of e-commerce and SaaS.
Super cool. So I wanted to get your opinion, like your thoughts, your recipes, your tactics, obviously what we call nuggets here on the show. If I were to approach you and let's say that I'm a good client, depending on how you guys measure fit, how do you guys get started with setting things up, research, really curious for our listeners' sake?
Yeah, sure. So basically, if a client were to come to us and we decide we are a good fit, we audit it, we assess potential for scale. We really have a kickoff call where we go through a product market fit questions where we ask what their customer acquisition cost is. We'll help them with that if necessary based on their lifetime value and margins. And we'll go through all their previous efforts. Have they advertised successfully before?
Yeah.
What are their learnings in the past? And then we'll just really kick it off from there. Really, our North Star metric with all of our clients is determining a customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
And from there, we'll switch over to really and this I'm not sure if other agencies do this or not, but we do what's called a value props sheet, which is really our guideline for almost all of our advertising. So we essentially look at their product. We think of all the bad alternatives that exist in the market today for that. And we use that to ideate what the actual value props are. So, for instance, if you had let's see, what's a good example of this? Maybe I'll use one of my own clients. So one of our clients, Autumn, it's like audiobooks, but for publications.
Okay.
As it is right now, people only have newspapers to read. So if you are hard of sight, you can't, your only option is to have a friend read it out loud for you. Therefore, the value prop is, that's kind of the flow. And essentially what we break it down to is we try to narrow it down to 4 value props. So 4 distinct value props so that we can create 4 distinct ads, with the idea being, let's not micro split test ad. And this is something I used to do, in my opinion, incorrectly. When Ad Espresso is a huge split testing tool, and I used to just go into ads and just right off the bat try to make campaigns with ridiculous amounts of ads. And for multiple reasons, I can dive into why that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
What I found, what works best, distinct ads. So kind of really multivariate testing to start things off. And I know you guys are all about that, because when we worked together, you did the same thing with our AdWords landing pages.
Right.
But same approach. So we'll see what kind of angle hits hardest for a particular segment, and then we'll get more granular with split testing from there. But that's pretty much how we start things off with creating ads for a client.
So this is amazing that you said that, because on our side, what we call this a war chest of ads. So we have 5 angles. We have a testimonial, a benefit, a feature, an FAQ, like the most frequently asked question that can be answered in the ad, and then like a competitor comparison. But it doesn't need to be like a competitor that we actually mention in the ad. And then we launch that. And then, like you said, you don't spend a lot of time on the micro stuff. Like you don't necessarily change like an emoji in the copy of the Facebook ad. Like you want to have more bigger things that you're competing against, and then you can start making the iterations after you see the individual winners in like the ad set. Is that correct?
Yeah, right on the money. And actually, what you just said is another great idea. Like competitor ads, those have been one of the number one winners for all of our clients.
Really?
Comparing a big competitor. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So surprisingly, like same thing with we had a client called Tovala. They do like a smart oven, and comparing them to Blue Apron was by far their number one driver of performance.
That's
and
crazy.
I think it's because obviously it kind of anchors the person to pay attention by hooking them with a name they do know, as opposed to this new startup that they've never heard of.
Right.
But yeah, I love what you just said about those like breaking it down. Cause then you can also say like, well, you could have a video testimonial, an image testimonial, like that's, you can get granular. But I learned the hard way of like the old school way, which was like, I think at one point I split tested like CTAs on the ad, like not a good idea.
Yeah.
That's like far down the funnel, far down your development process.
Yeah.
But very cool. All right. So one other thing, then I'll kind of go into like management from there after. So we kick off with those ads. We see what wins. Obviously we can test more, but also organizationally. So I don't know what you use for managing advertising for your clients. We use Airtable.
Okay.
And what we do is we call it like a growth log. And basically we map out the tests and we say, okay, here's the test impact. Here's the results. Is it running right now? Is it not? And that keeps the account managers focused. It keeps the client happy. And it also keeps everybody in, you know, you have this Rolodex of all your previous tests, so you never lose track of whether you've done something or not.
Right.
So that's something that I'm not sure if other advertisers are doing that or not. I'd love to hear or meet, or if anyone hears this, I'd love to, you know, pick your brain and see how you use Airtable, because I'm kind of new on it, but it's definitely exciting.
That's super cool. So you do that, you're testing the different things from an ad perspective, and then you're tracking your experiments too. Let's say that you guys inherit a client, for example, that has a customer acquisition cost that's too high. You do an audit, you find some potential low-hanging fruits, you make those adjustments, and they're happy with like the customer acquisition cost now, but the next step is now scaling. You mentioned that and alluded to that earlier. Like, that's tough. Like, how do you guys go about that to even figure out what angle you want to approach? And Yeah,
actually, I love that. And that's one of the biggest difficulties, I think, pretty much every startup faces, which is this idea of growth. Yeah, growth versus efficiency. So, like, do you want to hit target CAC? Because if you start scaling up, you're going to see your customer acquisition costs likely rise unless you're continually doing these tests that we're talking about. And those tests, of course, are a huge investment of resources. Sometimes they don't work. So for me, I always ask a client or company, really, what we're talking about is, do you want profitable advertising right now? Do you want to be hitting an effective CAC, or are you looking to grow? Because right now, we can easily see it with data. Once we hit a certain level of spend, that we start hitting this friction. Facebook ads, as you know, is even more volatile, where, you know, pushing the spend up 2x can sometimes quadruple the customer acquisition cost. So I try to frame it as, if you're going to have growth as a goal, then that's when this Airtable situation becomes much more fun, because then we can propose what we think are the biggest levers to move the needle. Because what happens is a lot of people want to just throw a bunch of stuff and see what sticks. And instead, we like to be a lot more methodical. Like, okay, well, we know this worked for this client in your industry, so let's try the testimonial ads, for instance, and let's invest the resources to make really kick-ass testimonial ads, instead of just trying to change a bunch of headlines and hope for the best. But yeah, feel free to guide me more if you want to poke more on that. I also find it interesting, like pacing. So this is something I'm still trying to figure out, and, you know, you're very experienced too. So I do notice that some clients want to aggressively scale. So I've had some clients come to me who want to quadruple their ad spend, and when you're already spending close to 6 figures, you know, you're already approaching that 100K limit. Like quadrupling is actually no easy feat whatsoever. And I noticed there's always a pressure with investors, especially because a lot of our clients are VC backed to accelerate. And to be honest, this is something I still haven't quite resolved or determined.
Yeah.
I just make it clear to people that, all we can do are these tests to see if we can lower CAC at a higher level of spend.
Yep.
The other thing I would say, and perhaps this is I don't know if you're going to give me a chicken for this, is looking at the first time impression ratio on lookalike audiences and also the frequency of the lookalike audiences.
Okay.
So you can look back on a time window and see that as your frequency begins to increase, your CAC will often increase as well. And Espresso did a whole blog post on this. So I think that's kind of, for me, what to help anchor people is, hey, if you've been hitting your 1% lookalike and it's at a frequency of 3, to think you can just start upping your ad spend right now is really naive, and you're going to result in a really escalated CAC. There we go.
There you go.
Hoping I can get the chicken.
Well, it's funny because
you
just prove that with actual data that supports why people need to have, I would say like better expectations of like you said, like we can grow your volume, but we need to have a conversation on the flexibility of your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, or your overall profit. Because if we talk about overall profit, then we'll be really great friends. But if you want to have like a certain profit margin, like the percentage, we're not going to be great friends. And this is why. And then you can prove it with that, like the impression frequency and things like that you mentioned. The thing that the thing that we've found, like you said, like you exhaust almost these audiences where there's fatigue, and if there's no different call to action because you're so focused on the direct response right then and there, whether it's e-commerce for a sale or SaaS for a trial or a demo, you can show and you can prove that math, which is thank you, because I don't think we've ever like used that to that degree, because we have a decent amount of clients that like say, hey, we just want to scale. I'm like, but there's a science and there's an art to this. And like, we can show you the science, but if we don't think about the art, meaning like, how do we create other combinations of campaigns and call to actions where we go maybe higher funnel, like saying like, hey, instead of a demo or a trial for your SaaS company, let's go after this ebook. Let's go after this webinar. Let's go after something that has additional value, or a calculator, something that's, almost marketing engineered to be driving value. Then we can actually have a lower, cost per conversion on that, and then add that together to like the email capabilities we have or the remarketing capabilities we have. Now we can push them down to the trial or demo. So the only way that we really found out to scale almost like systematically, regardless of what kind of company it is to create these other, I hate to use the word funnels because they are at the end of the day, but I don't like funnel marketing in general because I feel like there's a lot of persuasion and stuff like that in it. But that's literally like what you have to do, because like you said, you can't exhaust what you're already doing with the same call to action again and again. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and actually, one idea there too, outside of the traditional, and maybe others have talked about this on the podcast, but something I've been experimenting with, and I still haven't really determined its usefulness all the way or practicality all the way, is this idea of prospecting first, retargeting. And that's kind of a bell curve. One of the founders kind of tried to coin that term, but the idea is you advertise on LinkedIn, and those leads, those people click over an engaging blog post, not a direct response. Something that will get people from LinkedIn to click, and who they are. This is great for SaaS.
Right.
And then you retarget them on Instagram story, let's say.
Right.
So that worked for one of our SaaS clients. The LinkedIn ads, like from a direct response perspective, bombed. But yet all of a sudden, the retargeting on Instagram story ads seem to be suddenly have a spike in lift and leads. So I think that's kind of getting into this idea of creativity as well. And that would be a pretty big test, and it's kind of hard to isolate that.
Yeah.
But the same could apply for Snapchat. Like Snapchat, you get clicks for like 19 cents a pop. Now, are those qualified clicks? That's hard to say. But what you can do is with that cheap traffic is retarget it on Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
And kind of chase after the sale there.
Yeah. No, I think your thought is correct, because I think a decent amount of people know about this, but then when it comes to execution, they fail pretty hard. And the only reason why I say that is because all they're really lacking is one, let's say a minimum amount of commitment from that visitor that came from LinkedIn to read that blog post, whether that be 30 seconds on the page or like anybody who bounces as part of that audience. So I know with Google Analytics, you can do that black and white very easily, but then they also don't exclude audiences from each other, which is kind of ironic. Like, how do you expect that? But your point of like, you're courting somebody before you go for the jugular about, you know, get down on one knee and ask them if they can marry you. You take that approach first, and it's beautiful. You can even do that with, like I said, higher funnel offers where you still get their email address and you get some point of conversion. But you can also do it without just seeing them being on the blog post. So I think you have some traction there.
Yeah. And as your audience might know, you can create custom audiences out of UTM parameters. So you can actually make an audience of just those that clicked on your LinkedIn ad and target that separately on Facebook.
Yeah. I like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me see where else I can take this. So scaling, we're always talking about, we could probably talk all day about that as well, or even more. Something I'd be curious to ask you maybe, and we can discuss is when somebody comes to you and they say, hey, I want a really high return on ad spend. Like I'm an e-commerce business and I want like that. I find a lot of people want these like simple figures that generalized figures. Do generalized figures really exist? And then two, is it really customer acquisition cost, which incorporates lifetime value? Yeah. Or do we just do return on ad spend? And that's something I still haven't made up my mind. I wasn't sure if you had an opinion there on how you tend to operate with that.
Yeah, maybe if I drop something that's equivalent of a nugget, just give me like a chicken cluck cluck, like with your voice, maybe if I earn it.
Oh yeah. Okay, sure.
No, I think when that conversation happens, it's always going to be a balance of not just one metric. It can't just be one metric, because you can get a high ROAS. I can get you a 30x ROAS, but I'm only going to bid on like your branded keyword, for example, or I'm only going to go after your custom audiences that have already hit the cart but didn't check out. But then your volume's going to suck, right? So it has to be a balance of ROAS and conversion volume. And then same thing with a customer acquisition cost. Like, it's also like the conversation of profitability. So they have to be able to understand, and it's up to us to educate them and set the expectations of like, how do we explain as you go from really, really hot traffic to colder traffic, how do we warm that up? So there is that point of the prospecting that's necessary to be able to do that, to kind of like create these like net new fans that weren't part of the situation before. So I always ask, at the end of the day, when we do our quarterly business reviews with our clients, we ask them like, what kind of business impact is this making? Because we can see ROAS, we can see conversion volume, but we might not be able to see the profit. We also don't know necessarily the profit margin, considering like ROAS is not ROI. So give us that feedback. Yep. Can we get a deeper understanding of what we're actually helping you guys with? So that kind of uncovers new things. Yes.
That was my time, man. I hope it's good.
I'm going back to you. Thank you. But yeah, is that how you guys approach it too?
Yeah. And I also try to, and I guess it's worth all clients kind of thinking about this, because sometimes I have e-commerce clients come to me and they are like, oh, well, you don't know our customer acquisition costs. Like, can you determine it for us? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, whoa, this is a big conversation, because like we need to know your margins. We need to know all this stuff. Like it's on like, the energy invested in that is energy that we could be investing in actually running tests. Right. And like determining things for you. Of course, it could be its own service, but that's something I tend to steer away from, because it involves a lot more than advertising.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah,
it totally does.
Let me see what else it is. Yeah. So try to think. Let's see. I'm going through some of my old tests and seeing if something can jog my mind for different ideas.
Maybe I can spur it. So, you guys are doing these tests. You're able to scale. I know you guys do more than just Facebook and Instagram. Are there certain like recipes that you guys get to point? Like, obviously you're using Airtable to track your experiments, the win and loss ratio. Are there certain things that either like for SaaS or e-commerce that are like, yeah, this is almost a law that we can make internally because it works again and again? Like, is there something like that you guys have or use, or is it all like free for you guys to choose and be creative about?
Oh yeah, no, great steering of the ship. So yeah, like recipes, right? Mm-hmm. So like, for instance, for e-commerce, I always test product style photos once I find a winning engagement. So maybe for you all, you use testimonials, but you try product testimonials, or you try a lifestyle picture of somebody holding it up as a testimonial. And I've seen stark differences there. Other things I do is choosing moms. Moms is a big one. You can target parental demographics on Facebook for different age ranges. And you might find that tailoring the copy, like if your product can work for a mom or, newlyweds or all these like niche demographics, if you can kind of think of tailoring your product for that, that can be kind of a go-to
Interesting.
Tip is what I use.
Biggest takeaway here: just target moms. That was the most important nugget.
This interview is over. Just target moms. Where was I also? Okay, so then another one would be like obviously videos. We tend to try to more or less just do like 30-second videos. So we use Animoto.
Okay.
I've also heard Biteable, Promo, whatever that is. 30-second videos that kind of just go through and run through the product that we kind of created a framework around. And obviously you can check these out if you check out an ads library of one of our clients, for instance. And I would say other things that aren't as much recipes are maybe giving things some spice. They are things we always do. So in that sense, they're part of the recipe.
Yeah.
It's thinking about like tangent dental. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that word, but thinking of a value prop that is not like directly associated with the brand. So to give you an example, that company I mentioned before called Autumn, the audiobook for publications, like we were going at it thinking like, oh, we'll just keep targeting people who care about these publications, who care about reading, maybe people who run, and they want to listen, all about people who listen to or like these news articles. And instead we randomly just thought of, wait, why don't we think of positioning this as a tool to learn English for people in foreign countries.
Wow.
As in like, okay, let's like twist it on its head. And it's been really successful. In fact, it was our highest performing, lowest CAC ad set for the last month for this client.
Wow.
And it's just like, it's this idea of, like, I'm not sure what to even call that. Like you're basically kind of trying to think about your product in a different way.
There's a word I used in the past, and of course now I'm blanking on it as well. It's so, for example, we have one client who is very much like Republican, like their audience is like Republican, Second Amendment kind of stuff. And funny enough, like the additional audiences that kind of overlap are like Harley Davidson people, for example, like so that we can actually make something that's specific to them, but might not have anything to do with like our core persona of an audience too. And that worked out really well. And there's like pickup trucks and, like we can kind of go like outdoor grilling and do-it-yourselfers. And like, so, I'll think if you can take the wheel, I'll keep thinking of like what I call that type of audience. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. And so I guess it's this idea that, I like also what you're saying too, about like you have your audience segment and then you try to find those kind of affinity audiences. Like what else are they into?
Yeah. And
try to target, the copy and creative around that. So I'm not really sure what to call that either. We need a word.
Let's just call it affinity. I think it started with A. And so I'm going to give you that for that one. Let's just call it that. Affinity audiences.
And I got some more gems. So retargeting offer ads. I've been finding that I've tested various windows for offer ads, which are only on the Facebook placement, not Instagram.
Yeah.
And that by and large for e-commerce almost always kills it. I normally do 7 days.
Okay.
And so I've experimented with 14 days, with 3 days, with 30 days. And with the offer ad, the person gets notifications if they save the offer to go use that offer. So Facebook basically helps you out beyond that initial click. So
that's cool.
That's a little gem. Other ones is I try to, I guess this is more of a testing thing that I do. I try to optimize for different steps of the funnel.
Okay.
And that's kind of later on. I wouldn't ever recommend somebody start off with that.
Yeah.
But as you know, like Facebook recommends 50 purchases per event you're optimizing for.
Yeah. Is that per week? What's the time frame on that? I forget myself.
I believe that's per week. I believe that's per week.
I think so too. Yeah.
Which is pretty intense, especially if you're going after purchases, depending on the price point. So they always say, try to do a higher funnel event. Mm-hmm. But I would say obviously test that, because I've gotten it handed to me when I'm like, I'll go optimize for add to cart instead of purchases. I get a bunch of 50-cent add to carts and no purchases.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say maybe the takeaway there is just test it and take that 50 conversions per week with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I've had it work and I've had it not work. And so this and also is maybe a final thing.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say real quick on that note before you go on to the next one was another guest on another segment of this podcast episode, Dennis Yu, was talking about Facebook is getting better and better, and actually Google is too, on being able to kind of run things without a lot of oversight. So if you can hit that 50 conversions, of sales or of demos or of trials a week, you can actually start like lessening your targeting, and it can actually start doing better and better, whether it's lookalike or custom audiences or saved audiences. So, but you brought up a good point, because obviously don't leave anything unwatched, because if you do change the goal, the objective of the campaign from a sale to an add to cart, obviously, like you mentioned, like you have a lot of add to carts, but for some odd reason, they're not going into sale as much as you had hoped. So that could be a way to fix, if you don't have 50 conversions a week, that problem. But there's might be something different that's being a bottleneck or an issue as to why those add to carts are not turning into sales, right? And so that's a way that you can actually like spearhead and go faster in regards to getting Facebook's help optimizing what you're doing. Wow, there it is.
That's the weakest chicken, man. I don't know how to make a chicken sound.
Yeah, we're human. That's okay.
Yeah, we're humans. We're really bad at this whole chicken thing. Maybe one other thing too I've been finding is this. So we have like a spy museum is one of our clients, and one of the cool tactics I work with them, and I've tried to test it on other ones. Sometimes it's hit or miss. It's not like consistent enough where I'd say we do this for everybody. Like I mentioned about parental demographics and new parents is also in a relationship. So if your product could be a gift or some sort of like activity or for a couple, I think that's a great angle to always test, and especially around certain times of year like Christmas and Valentine's Day. Or I wish you could. Facebook luckily isn't creepy enough that you could target a significant other's birthday, but it's definitely kind of a good angle to explore.
It's bound to happen. I mean, like that would be I would actually be happy about that, because it would give me a ton of ideas based off like their interest in activity. And it would be a no-brainer. Like, hopefully, let's cross our fingers.
Facebook's removed so much. They've removed the income targeting. They've removed like you can't exclude certain things. Like I don't believe you can exclude like new parents, for instance. And meanwhile, Snapchat's very creepy, going through creepland. They have all the data logic, Experian, all the data.
They have to,
but not to call out Snapchat too hard. But
we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back for that episode. We'll talk about what we can do over there too. Tim, this
cool.
This has been super, super amazing and super helpful. I love your angles of what you guys do, how you go about it, how a lot of the stuff is similar, but like the Airtable thing, like we got to level up our crap over here. That was a great nugget. Super thankful, and we'll definitely let you know and hit you back up for future episodes.
All right, man. Thanks, Jonathan, and have a good rest of your Tuesday.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation, my man.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right, so we basically have our own director of paid social here on the Facebook ads episode. His name is Matt Nelson. Hi, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm super pumped to be on this side of it this time.
Yeah, before you were just a side co-host. Now you're actually a guest.
I feel more special now.
Good. You know the rules of the game. The more nuggets, the better. Obviously, we don't want any fluffy nuggets. We want some real like good, hearty ones. So when it comes to Facebook ads, you were on the Dennis episode, or the segment within that episode. Some things that we were talking about that kind of overlap with some of the stuff that we do. But if you were to explain to somebody who has never run Facebook ads before, and you were giving them like, here is the blueprint for getting things set up correctly, where would you start?
So starting off, I'd figure out, what is your product and what type of campaign should I run? It's important to know, what you sell, what you do. So, for example, Facebook has so many different types of campaign optimizations.
Yeah.
So if you sell e-commerce products, you need to make sure that you get your pixels set up and all of your events set up so that you can optimize towards purchases or add to carts if you don't have enough purchase pixel information.
Right.
So making sure that all of your pixel events are set up, and then therefore knowing what to then optimize for when you start setting up those campaigns.
Got it. Number one. There's the first nugget. Getting your pixel installed to make sure that plumbing is accurate.
Yes.
And depending on what type of events or what type of triggers you want to be tracking, it depends on the type of business you are. So you gave it e-commerce. E-commerce is probably one of the more advanced one. I'm imagining like apps could be pretty advanced too. Okay. So sorry, continue.
Yeah. And then, so once you have, that initial plumbing set up, your pixel and all that stuff, I then start setting up your remarketing audiences, which in Facebook's case are called custom audiences. Okay. And you always want to start with custom audiences first, because going back to, the PPC temperature thermometer, they are the hottest audience. They know who you are.
Most attractive audience.
Most attractive, yeah.
Very good looking people.
Definitely. It's like looking at an audience of people like me and you.
Oh, you could have just stopped with you and then not said me, but now, okay, here's another nugget. All right.
Yeah, so basically a custom audience is, some known audience to you, whether it's, remarketing off of your site visitors. It could be a list of your own customers that you upload because you know them. It could be your email subscribers, people known to you. So they have the most intent compared to just simply targeting an interest off of Facebook. So you always want to start with them because they have the most intent to purchase or whatever your offer is. Yeah, your biggest intent to convert. So you want to always start with your custom audiences. If you're a small business starting out, you don't have a ton of budget, and you'd have a little bit of Google running, and you're like, I've never tried Facebook before. I would start with just doing custom audiences off of remarketing, just to kind of get a feel for it and see if you can convert some of those users on Facebook. And start letting that pixel start capturing that information.
Got it. Yeah,
learning.
A lot of the cross-platform, not just related to Facebook, but even Google, even LinkedIn. Like if obviously your audience is on LinkedIn, always start with remarketing. It's like a no-brainer. It's going to make you the most money, the quickest. Well, not the most money, but basically it could have the best ROI potentially for you and the return on ad spend, but the volume might not be as high.
Definitely.
So what's the next step after that?
So yeah, say you've now exhausted your remarketing audiences and you're like, hey, it's time to start working pretty well. Let's start throwing some fuel to this fire and start really prospecting and going after, new people.
Yeah.
So the first step I would do there is create what they call lookalike audiences in Facebook off of your lowest funnel users, which are your customers.
Right.
If you're a brand new company and you don't have, say you only have 10 customers that just started out, you don't have enough to make a lookalike off of customers. Start slowly moving up the funnel to that next step and creating lookalikes there, which could be, a lead list.
Sure.
It could be, people who've signed up for a free trial. And sometimes you have to start off with just simply website visitors, but you slowly build that funnel over time by making a lookalike off those website visitors. Now you get more people who have filled out a request. So now you have a bunch more emails. Now make a lookalike off of them and just slowly build out that plumbing so you can have a more robust remarketing funnel and more audiences to then target with lookalikes.
I like that. So basically, you guys listening, the first step was building out these custom audiences, which are people who are on your website, but they might not have taken the action yet. So you're remarketing to them on Facebook to get them to come back and take that action. The next step after that was the lookalike audiences, which are basically a mirrored version of the people who have already taken an action that you like on your site. So either they bought something, they added a cart, they might have signed up for a demo, or they signed up for a trial, or they are actually paying customers if you're lead gen or software. And then you're basically going up the funnel from here. Like you start at the bottom because that's the action that you care the most about. So Facebook can find other people who match, which is why it's called lookalike audiences. And then that goes out to, building your lookalike audiences.
And Facebook basically takes those users, which are your customers, and finds people exactly like them, like Johnathan said, whether it's, based upon their demographic information, their browsing behaviors, and it just tries to find people exactly like them because they're going to be more likely to convert than someone who's just, Joe Schmo, random person.
Don't want to target him.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. So lookalikes, I know there's percentages. Like, what are your thoughts on, we talked about this earlier today too, actually, with another client that we're looking at. What are your thoughts? Like, how do people understand that and what do they do with it?
So when you create a lookalike in Facebook, they give you the option of creating a 1% all the way up to a 10% lookalike. And so what that means is that it's the percentage of the population that you're targeting. So for example, if you're only in the US and you create a 1% lookalike of your customers, it's going to find the closest 1% of the US population to your customers and basically mirror those. And then as you slowly scale that up to 2%, 3%, all the way up to 10%, that list size is getting bigger and bigger because it's a higher percentage of your core target that you're trying to mirror. But then again, it's further away from the audience you're trying to mirror.
Right.
And
there's more variety in it.
Yeah. So when you're thinking of creating your lookalikes, always start off with 1% because it's the closest match to your actual customers. But once you've exhausted your 1%, you've been running ads on your 1% for a while. It's been doing really well, but you're trying to take that next step. Then you go start creating, your 1 to 3% or your 1 to 5%. And you're like I mentioned, you're getting further away from your core market, but there's still like a 3% of the US population still pretty close to who you're targeting.
Yeah.
And the one cool thing about that is, say you create a 1 to 5% lookalike, that's a 4% more than a 1%. It's a huge audience. And so what Facebook does is, because there's more audience to pull from, one benefit they give you from that is something called it's a CPM. That's basically how Facebook charges you.
Cost per 1,000 impressions.
Yeah, cost per 1,000 impressions. That's how they charge you. It's not like you're bidding on a keyword like in Google. And so the larger your audience typically is, they benefit you with a smaller CPM. So you're paying less to serve your ads to these people, which is always nice.
I like that, but it doesn't guarantee that even as you grow the audience size, that like performance still follows.
Typically as you scale it, your percentage of your lookalike or your audience size, you might have a lower conversion rate because you are getting further away, and sometimes that cost benefit of the CPMs does balance that out, and sometimes it works better. But don't just go crazy broad off the bat. You definitely want to build up your pixel and start testing it. But that is one of the benefits of a larger audience, is getting that low CPMs.
Love that. So we understand lookalike. There's another type of audience that we talk about too. What's that one called?
The last one is called a saved audience.
Okay.
And this is where you basically tap into Facebook's ability to target based on interests, demographics, and anything of the like. And so you can target anything from age, gender,
job title,
household income, people interested in Nike shoes.
That's me.
Yeah, literally.
Not you. You have Adidas on today.
Yeah, that's true. I wear.
Actually, you have Vans on today.
I have Adidas shorts.
Okay, there you go.
But you can basically target anyone, pretty much so many different types of interest-based targeting, which is really cool when you're trying to hone on your target market. But you always want to typically start there last, because at the same time, they are the lowest threat or lowest intent to purchase.
Right.
They've probably never heard of you. Even if you sell like you're a sports shop that sells Adidas apparel, just because you target people interested in Adidas doesn't mean they're going to buy your stuff. They probably never heard of your brand. They don't know who you are. So you do need to, you always have to keep the PPC temperature thermometer in place, and then typically go there last.
And really quick on that too, because I know people listening might not have heard about that before. We basically have created this scale of, it's basically different smaller scales within Facebook, within Google, but overall, it kind of talks about how when you have warm traffic, you can go for the jugular and ask them to buy. You can ask them to sign up for the trial, ask them to sign up for the demo, or get a consultation, depending on if you're a lawyer, an e-commerce shop, a software provider, doesn't matter. As you get colder traffic, which is kind of what Matt talked about in regards to, you were talking about custom audiences being the hottest, lookalike being kind of warm, but like not the hottest, and then saved audiences usually being the cold. It's okay to target those people, but you need to consider how the offer matches, like your call to action matches the intent of the temperature to actually convert. So as you go from hot to cold, you can't have the expectation of everybody still wanting to buy. Like you need to actually maybe have a discount or other things like that you can use to your advantage.
Yeah. And that's not to say that you can't be successful with saved audiences. One really cool part about Facebook is that you can, depending on your product, you can really play off of the impulse buying of people, where we have clients that like literally sell like t-shirts with like dog faces and stuff like that, which it's like a random product and people have never heard of them.
Yeah.
But if you can target people who like that kind of dog, for example, people do anything for their animals. And so we just saved audience, targeting that, like people who are interested in that type of dog. Sales just come in because it plays off of that impulse buy.
Right.
Now that doesn't work with every product. You have to have the right product that makes sense, but saved audiences still can be a very powerful audience to work with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, we are almost at the point where we want to make this a law internally, but then there's like those additional aspects where like the rule can be broken. So that's good to hear. So, all right, so we talked about the objectives of the campaigns, the type of campaigns, the audiences. What's next?
So now that you've created the plumbing with your pixel and you've got that implemented, you got all your events set up, you know what type of campaign you want to create because you're an e-commerce product or an e-commerce company and you want to sell. So you start with choosing your campaign objective, which almost all the time, 99% of the time would be conversions, because you're trying to optimize towards that event. So if you don't have enough of the conversion event data, like we talked about, sometimes you have to reverse engineer it. So you'd want to start with traffic because you want to get people to go to your landing page, so have some people start taking those actions, and then over time, switch it over to conversions.
Sorry, we talked about the pixel, we talked about the audience, we didn't talk about the objectives. So you're on that right now. Keep going.
Yep, definitely. So you choose the objectives. Like I said, most of the time, it's conversions, and because you're going to optimize towards a specific action you want users to take. And Facebook, they have so much data on user behavior on Facebook. So if you're trying to optimize for people who purchase, for example, they look for people first who typically have done purchase events in the past, who have clicked on ads and went through the process of converting, rather than just serving your ads to people who just view ads but never click on them.
Right.
The algorithm basically helps you get to the core customer that you want.
We don't give it enough credit, in my opinion. Yeah. Everybody we talked to too for this episode, like Dennis was saying it too, like eventually just take off targeting. If you have enough conversion volume, it just figures it out.
We haven't got it there, but it's true. Like literally, if you've fed the pixel enough information over time, you literally can go broad, because the pixel now has, you say you've gotten 10,000 customers already. And they know that they have the demographic info. They know these users really well. Yeah. So it's essentially a broad lookalike, right? And they just go and just try to find those users for you. And it's pretty crazy. And
Facebook knows what your goal is, what your target, cost per acquisition is, and all that kind of stuff. And it'll adhere as much as it can, obviously. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So once you've chosen your campaign objective, it's time to create your ad sets. Okay. And your ad sets is basically where you set up the actual targeting. Okay. So where, like I said, if you need to start with, your custom audiences, starting with remarketing or your lookalike, so on and so forth. So you build out your, you choose your audience. And from there too, another really important part of setting up those ad sets outside of the targeting itself is now you can choose the placements you want to put them on. Okay. And so historically, in the past, 3+ years ago on Facebook, people would just be like, all right, I'm just going to only serve on the newsfeed because it knows it does that. That's what does the best when I look at my breakdown. But there wasn't really the ability to optimize your creative for specific placements. And so you'd create an ad, you'd serve it to all placements, and then it just looks funny, like depending on the placement you're at. Right. Facebook now has the ability when you choose your placements, you can create one ad, but then customize it like 12 different times for all the various placements. Okay. So typically you'd want to start with all placements all the time and optimize your creative per placement so that it looks really pretty. And Facebook, once again, benefits you with a low CPM because you're not trying to focus on one specific place where the auction might be higher. You have the benefits of these cheaper auctions. And now that your ad creative is optimized for those specific placements, your performance is a lot better. So you're not seeing these super high CPAs and right-hand column, for example, and stuff like that. Typically, they're on par, if not lower, than your account as a whole. Okay, interesting. Because before we've talked about granularity, having like one audience per ad set, almost like one, not necessarily one ad per ad set, but you're right. Like the different placements, they have different, pixel dimensions. Some of them might actually allow video. Some might not be allowing that. They might be static, but now you're saying there's an option that you can use to make one creative customized to all placements. Yeah, rather than having to create an ad for each one or an ad set just for Instagram stories or an ad just for right-hand column and whatnot. You can customize it per placement within one ad. Got it. It's really cool. And it's, like I said, that benefits you on a CPM basis. So you're not paying outrageous CPMs and costs just to serve your ads. And then the performance is not as bad anymore because now you can actually have pretty creative for each placement. Right. Which to me has been a huge game changer as far as performance for a lot of our clients. Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm going to give you a nugget. Sweet. I'm like slowing down. You're talking so much good stuff and I'm like forgetting to hit the button. So keep going. Yeah. And then on the placement side, one of the newest things is that if you have video creative available, I know not every company has video creative available, but if you do have video creative available, one placement that's typically forgotten amongst a lot of advertisers is stories. And stories, if, like I said, as long as you have the creative available, it's a really good place for really cheap auctions to serve your ads and get your message out really quick, hook them when they're, scrolling through the stories and really, really engage with your audience and get them to take an action as long as you can hook them within those first couple seconds. So if you have the creative available, it is really, really cheap to serve your ads in the Instagram and Facebook stories. And so we see a lot of clients that have the creative available take advantage of that because the auctions are so low. Are you able to create on stories? I don't know, but I know on newsfeed you can, like where the depth of how long they watch the video, you can create another audience off of them. Yep. Okay. Yep. So adding on to what Johnathan was talking about. First a nugget, continue. Yeah. So if you have videos, and this doesn't go off of just, stories, but like you said, the newsfeed too, just videos in general. People have watched those videos and not everyone takes an action. Some people might find it interesting. They watch it, they don't click. And most people start with remarketing off of, people who've clicked. that doesn't mean that there's not the people who watch those videos still showed some level of intent. So like Johnathan mentioned, you can create audiences off of your video viewers from any of the videos that you've placed, whether it's, an Instagram story ad, whether it's this particular, story you have in the newsfeed or video you have in the newsfeed. You can create audiences off of them and remarket to those users. And you can create anywhere from like a 3-second video viewer to remarket to them up to like a 10-second video viewer, which if you have enough video views, I'd always recommend 10 seconds just because they've taken a little extra time. Higher intent. Yeah. Once again, it always comes back to that being intent.
Okay, cool. Awesome. What else were you missing right now?
Yeah, so we've talked about the assets or the placements. We've talked about the targeting. The last step on the ad set is then setting up your bidding per se.
Okay.
I know you don't bid on your keywords, but there's auto bidding where basically Facebook will then go and say, I'm going to find you as many people and get you as many conversions at the lowest possible cost.
Yeah.
And just you give Facebook the reins to do it. There's also cost cap bidding where you can set like a target CPA and its target bid and kind of let Facebook do its thing. But if you don't have that pixel data, we're talking to a lot of new advertisers here. I would never recommend starting with that because you haven't ran ads yet. You don't know what your actual CPA is. So for example, you're like, well, $10, I'm willing to pay $10 per lead, but when your actual cost per lead is $30, you're not going to, your Facebook won't serve your ad traffic because it knows it's not realistic cost-wise to get that CPA.
Got it.
So I'd always start with automatic bids.
Okay.
And then if it makes sense, you've gotten that data, start over time, switching it to target CPA and start chopping it down over time.
Okay.
So it's now your CPA is $30. Well, let's try to go for 28.
Sure.
See if we can slowly chop that down over time.
Not like from 30 to 10. That might be too aggressive.
Yeah, 30 to 10. Like everyone's gonna be like, I want a $1 CPA. Let's go for it.
Yeah, if you keep chopping it down too, just for you guys, any math nerds listening, you have to balance the volume aspect of like how many actions you want people to take, how many actions total you want, and then also the cost per that action, right? So if it's a cost per sale, then you also have sales volume. Those got to be in balance because you can effectively continue to like lower your cost per acquisition if you wanted to. But at some point, you're going to be sacrificing your volume.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So if you did auto targeting or auto bidding and you have a $30 CPA, you're like, I want a $15 CPA. You're still going to get some traffic. They're not going to just cut off cold turkey.
Right.
But you might go from like, let's say 100 conversions down to like 10, for example. And so, you hit your CPA goal, but now you only have 10
From
leads.
From a business perspective, you might not do much more.
Exactly.
Like that's it.
Exactly. And and so, I wouldn't, it's got to make sense.
I like that. Awesome.
Cool.
What's next?
So we've pretty much set up the plumbing. It's time to create those ad creatives.
Okay.
We're setting up the ads for you. And so Facebook, they have a ton of different ad varieties that you can create. If you have the ability, I'd always recommend starting with video. People just are drawn to videos. It's more engaging than a static image. Doesn't mean that static images can't be successful, but just people like video, and Facebook benefits you if you have a video once again with lower CPMs because they typically have higher engagement rates.
Got it.
And so you do get those cost benefits with video. So I'd always start with video.
And it's not to say like, because everybody says like, oh my God, it's a year of the video, but that was like the last 3 years. And so it's not because we're saying video for the sake of video, it actually performs better in a lot of cases too.
Yeah. Yep. I would say like 8 out of 10 times video does perform better.
Okay.
Which are good odds. It doesn't work better every time, but it's pretty good odds. If you're a blackjack player, there you go. But so the options you have available outside of video and static images, they have just standard newsfeed ads, which could be a video or a static image, but those are typically either the rectangle size you have or the square.
Yeah.
And you can put some text above, and like a headline below. And those are pretty much the highest volume types of pieces you get, serving on the newsfeed. After that, you can then do carousel ads, which are the ones that you can see that like people swipe through.
Yep.
You can do that both on Facebook and on Instagram, which is really cool. And if you can't do video and you want some sort of ad that has better engagement, carousel typically always have better engagement than a static ad because there is that swiping feature. People can scroll through it.
I like that.
And so I'd always use carousels if you have the ability to, which as long as you can cut up a square. If you can cut up one static ad, you should be able to cut up 3.
Yeah.
So I do carousels as well. Then there's canvas ads as well. Those are the ads that they create more of an experience rather than simply clicking on ad, going to a landing page. Facebook has like you click on the ad and like a little thing will pop up, and it creates more of an experience for you. You can have, if you're in e-commerce, you have more products being shown and whatnot. And so it's a little more engaging from a user experience point of view, rather than sending straight to the landing page right off the bat.
Cool.
And then there's also the Instagram story ads like we talked about before, on a placement side. And so those are pretty much the big three that are used all the time. And like I said, if you have video, use video. If not, carousel ads, if you have static ads. And then,
or do all of the above. I mean, if you have the resources, try them out, right?
Yeah, try them all. Yeah. And it's good too with, for example, with remarketing, you can have a video ad, and to bring them in, you have your people who've clicked on your landing page, also the video viewers. Remarket them with a really hard, with your lowest funnel offer,
with a really hard offer.
With a really hard offer, with a static ad that highlights the benefits and features, which goes into my next side. Yeah. My next thing is what we do at KlientBoost. We create what we call a war chest of ads, and that's not the individual sizes. That's all cool stuff like video carousels and stuff, but what we call war chest are different types of ads that all have different messages to serve to the users in different sets of the funnel or different aspects of the funnel, depending on where they're at. And what we typically build in our war chest are benefits and features of the product you're offering, having ads specific to that. And you can put that on the image or talk about it in the video, but it could also be as simple as an image of the product. And then on the text above, the text above, you're talking about the benefits and features. Next are testimonials from other users, clients, customers. And those are really, really powerful, especially with remarketing, because a lot of people might find your product really cool, really interesting. They've clicked, they're kind of into it, but they need that extra little like push to get them to convert. And so seeing that testimonial, having that social proof is the next kind of step, just to push them over the edge and take that action. And then another one is awards and recognition. If you've, won some sort of really cool award that your industry sees really highly, or just adds that next level of social proof. Yeah. Always create ads that highlight that awards and recognition.
You got an award at the Christmas party, right?
Let's not talk about that one.
Okay. All right. We'll skip that.
It's not today. It's not today, because today I'm looking pretty fly, but I have won worst dressed 2 years ago. I should have won it last year, but Johnathan was nice and gave me a year off of winning that one.
Yeah, we passed the torch to Luke. He got that one instead.
And then also your overall unique value proposition. Yeah. If your product is different and sets you apart from the competition, you want to highlight that. And you want to tell the users what separates you and sets you apart. So you do want to highlight that in the ads, and that can get people to take that next step. Yeah. And then lastly, numbers and stats to support why you're a great choice. If, for example, you're some health product and you're trying to get people to get buff like me, I'm not buff at all, but you have some sort of app that 53% of users, hit the goals or like weight gain goals they've gotten, and then within 30 days.
That's
a
pretty low percentage.
I don't know, 53%. I don't know.
It's like a coin flip.
It was the first. It's half the time it works.
Okay, cool. So if you do it twice, you're pretty set.
But if 75% of the time your product beats your competition or whatever, highlight that in an ad. Show that how many people can take that step and how much easier it is.
Yep. And the thing to keep in mind here too is that the call to action doesn't change. It's like still the same focus that you're trying to achieve. It's just different angles of your product or your service that you're highlighting with these angles. The war chest.
Say you have all these things in remarketing, like you said, and so these people who just need that extra push, unique value proposition that could get them to push over that, and you're asking for a purchase or a demo or for example, numbers and stats. Oh shoot, that's really cool. I want that. Or awards and wow, they're recognizable. So like you said,
JD Power.
The offer does not change. It's literally just the messaging on the ad that changes. Okay, which is really cool.
Cool.
So now you have all your.
There's a lot of nuggets in there. We'll just do it once.
Cool. So you have all these cool ads now, and you want to create them. So natively, if you just go create ad in Facebook, say it's your first time, you create your ad once in that ad set, and that ad now has its unique post ID. If you were then to go say that ad you want amongst all of your ad sets, you create it a second time, and you go to create ad and you rebuild it, and it's exactly the same image, same copy, everything. Post it now again, and now that post, even though it's an identical ad, same image, same copy, everything, it now has a second post ID. So essentially, if you're building ads natively as they have it in Facebook, you're basically creating multiple pieces of a pie, even though it's the same pie. And so if you were to then say serve your ads, the same ad 10 different times at 10 different ad sets, people are liking, commenting, sharing your ad post. But if you do it that native way, you're splitting the social proof 10 different places.
Right.
So if somebody in ad set 1 likes it, someone who now sees your ad from ad set 10 will not see that like.
Right.
Only those people in ad set 1. So what we do to basically combat this and put all of the social proof into one ad is something we call dark posting, which back in the day, that was called an unpublished page post, where you basically create one post ID and then boost it across all of your ad sets.
Right.
And so when you do it that way, by creating one post ID and then boosting it across of all of your ad sets, you have that identical ad, but they're all going to the same post ID, not 10 separate ones. So if someone from ad set 1 likes, comments, and shares, someone from ad set 7 will now see all those like, comments, and shares. So you start getting that accumulation of social proof. And what typically happens here is you get that social proof snowball. Everyone likes that viral effect. That's what makes Facebook so cool, is seeing all that social proof, all those likes, comments, and shares. And dark post really helps push it over the edge. And like, if you accumulate all that, and it just, are you going to be more likely to convert if you see 100 likes or 7 likes?
Right.
It's just adds that social proof. However, one thing to be careful of that, if you're dark posting, is if you have a product that might be kind of in a gray area, a little, I don't, not scandalous, but I don't, what's the word?
Let's not give any examples.
but just say it's a little bit of a gray area kind of product where you might get some negative social proof on your ads. I'm sure you guys have seen those internet trolls going on, just talking smack about your products or whatever. Just you don't like those types of people. But if you have a product that lives kind of in that gray area, you get a lot of that social proof. If you dark post, you're now accumulating that social proof, that negative social proof, that much faster.
Right.
And if someone sees a negative comment, they might be more likely to post a negative comment.
Right.
So I would be wary with dark posting if you kind of live in that gray area.
If you have to reset your ads quite often.
Yeah, you might have to reset your ads quite often if that's the case, and you just don't want that to happen to you. So I would keep an eye on those comments.
Cool. I like that. One thing that just made me think of it too. So when you do the war chest of ads, you can have different ad types, but it's like the actual visual and the messaging can be different too, depending on, the angles that you talked about. Then the call to action being the same, and the reason why you then dark post putting in the ad set is that, one, it kind of aggregates that social proof, but also we don't know if like a custom audience campaign and a lookalike audience campaign, like we don't know which ad of that war chest is going to perform better. So it's going to over time start showing us which one actually like is working and performing better, and therefore I guess you can pause the underperforming ones and take it from there.
Yeah, it does definitely speed up the testing process, kind of like what you were saying. Yeah, by helping push that social proof faster to the various different ad sets.
And I think I've heard another guest on the episode, his name is Tim from Bell Curve. He was saying too that like, don't waste your time split testing like little emojis in the copy or like doing these small things. Like go more broad, more aggressive. And so when he said that, I think he was actually giving me a nugget with his like voice, like curly or whatever he was doing. But that was what I was talking to him about the war chest of ads too, and be like, this allows us to actually have a starting point that has a lot of different angles. Yep. And they're different enough that we should get some traction of some sort.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep. Like you said, different angles, different images, different copy.
Yeah.
And you kind of led me into the next point when it comes to like optimizing your creative. You've launched your initial set, and let's say that your product and or your features and benefits is what's performing best, and that angle just seems to work better than everything else. But now you want to take that and make it better. What will typically give you the biggest impact when it comes to testing isn't the copy that you write on top. It's the visual. That's what people see first all the time when they're scrolling through their feed, is that visual, like it pops out at you. So if you keep testing the copy above, but it's the same image every single time, those users are going to experience what is we call ad fatigue, because of, even if the copy is different, they've already seen that image. Like, I've already seen this.
They're not going to read that again.
They're going to swipe right through it. Yeah. So if you want to make the biggest impact on your testing, always test the creative, the image or the video. It could be even hypothetically the same video, but change the thumbnail. It could literally be as easy as that. Okay. If you have a lack of creative, and you're just trying to test it, just make it visually different so that it just repeats that user's interest and gets them back. And you could sometimes keep the copy the same. Not to say testing your copy is not important, but if you prioritizing your test, I'd always start with the image first to pretty much mitigate that ad fatigue.
What are your thoughts on, and I know a lot of people don't have that, like if they're e-commerce store, like they want to get purchases, right? They want to get sales.
Yes.
So you don't have a lot of freedom in split testing, like your call to action. But I've seen a lot of times where on landing pages, but I don't know about Facebook ads, that also has a pretty big impact, or at least the wording of your call to action that you're using, even if it's the same thing that you're wanting them to do.
Yeah, on the Facebook ad side, since they have like already set CTA buttons, it can be a little difficult with changing the wording. Like you said on the landing page side, you could have the same meaning on the button and change it. It's a little harder on the Facebook side, but with that said, you still have some options. For example, let's say you're trying to promote an ebook.
Yeah.
There's an option for learn more, which that's what an ebook does. It learns more, so that could be your base CTA button.
Right.
But there's also one that's download.
Got it.
So that's basically what you're trying to do is learn more by downloading our free guide. So you still do have a couple options with trying to test some of these CTA buttons. Or let's say it's you're promoting a free demo, for example. That could be sign up for a free demo, but they also have one for get offer.
Okay.
To get your free offer. So there's still some wiggle room to test your CTA buttons within Facebook.
But it's tight though.
It's a little tighter, but there's still some options available for that.
Cool. Awesome. So ad optimization, check. What's next?
So we've already talked about optimizing. So now I would say let's go back to expanding and trying to scale.
Okay.
I think that's a good place.
Cool. So if you're following these nuggets that Matt been talking about, like you're structurally set up in a pretty sound way.
Yep.
And now people they're starting to get the data come in, they're getting their sales, they're getting their leads. Now they want to get more. That's where we're at right now. They want to get more boost sauce.
Yep. So I don't know, you guys might fall in this bucket, but I see frequently that people are like, hey, this is working really good. Let's just double the budget because that means I'm going to get double the leads. Never do that. Yeah. Never do that because the Facebook algorithm does not work that way.
Yeah.
Say you've been optimizing over time at a certain spend threshold and the learning phase is already done, which is Facebook's algorithm has learned kind of what works and what doesn't. If you double that budget, it's been optimizing ever since you've been running for a certain cost. If you double that cost, now everything changes, which auctions it chooses to go into, which users to serve to. So typically when you double that budget, your CPA usually will fly through the roof. So that would be like I would never start when you're looking at scaling by doubling the budget.
Tim was saying the same thing. A lot of people think like, oh yeah, let's just add some more money to this, but like it doesn't work. Like you're always going to have your cost per acquisition. It's going to creep up no matter what. Like you can, sorry, go ahead.
No, but it's true. You can't just double the budget and assume you're going to get the same amount. It's not like there's a certain, it's not like in Google search where you might have a campaign at your certain budget, but it's limited by budget and it's working good. You can simply just unleash that budget. It's still the same amount of people searching and now you're just getting more of those searches. It's a little bit different this way. So rather than just doubling your budget, I would always start with, let's create some new campaigns.
Okay.
Let's say you've just started with lookalikes. Let's increase those percentage of lookalikes, or let's now introduce some saved audiences.
Okay.
Let's try to create a more robust remarketing funnel. For example, maybe you're only serving to the people who've been to your site or clicked on your landing page and then didn't convert. But now you have those videos that you've created. Start doing some video reviewers because that's a huge audience that's just sitting there that you're not using. So I'd always create and prioritize new campaigns, reaching new people rather than just simply doubling your budget.
Interesting.
And with that said too, say you have your lookalike campaign and now you're moving into saved audiences.
Yeah.
You still want to exclude those lookalike users from those saved audience campaigns. The messaging might change over here, but there might be some overlap between the users in a saved audience with users in your lookalike. So you always want to keep them separate.
Okay.
So if you have a 1% lookalike running here and now you launch the save audience, exclude the 1% visitors or the 1% users from the saved audience.
Got it.
So you're keeping those audiences separate and you're not essentially going into auction against yourself and then rising your CPMs and your costs.
Okay, cool, man. I like this a lot. There's a lot of things that we actually learned right now. Anything else that the listeners should know about?
Yeah, some cool tools. If you're trying to think of I actually don't know who my target audience is. Where should I start or what should I do? There's some cool tools. One of them is free. It's Facebook's Audience Insights.
Yeah.
So basically, you can take a look at people who liked your page or your converters, and basically get some demographic and interest-based information off of your users for free based upon Facebook's data. You can see everyone who's liked your page. You can see what pages they like, who are their favorite, people, what types of things they follow. You might see some commonalities and think like, hey, yeah, people who like Mark Cuban, for example, are that makes sense. They might be interested in Shark Tank investing. I don't know, I sell this investing product or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You might find some, cool new audiences that you can then target and reach, which is really cool.
I forgot what the name was for another segment, but we call it.
Yep. I know your ancillary audiences.
There we go. Yeah. Ancillary audiences.
I totally forgot about that one. Let's go into ancillary audience for scaling. So let's say going back to the Adidas example that I was saying, that you're a retailer of Adidas shoes. Mm-hmm. You've already targeted Adidas shoes because that's what you sell. People are interested in Adidas shoes. But, what do people who like Adidas shoes like? Mm-hmm. So an ancillary audience is something that's very similar to your product, but slightly different. So it could be people interested in soccer. Now you're trying to sell your Adidas soccer cleats.
Right.
Or it could be people like basketball. You're trying to sell your basketball stuff. Could be literally people interested in CrossFit.
Right.
It's just stuff that's very similar to what you do, but different. If do you have yoga classes, or you're like a local yoga instructor,
right?
You could target people who like Lululemon,
or if they're vegan, or yoga pants, things like that too.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Pretty much it.
Awesome. So that's a free tool.
Yeah, so that's also a free tool right there too.
Okay.
So the audience insights, and there's some other cool tools that can like help you find stuff. Some cost other money.
Yeah.
Another cool idea, that if you run Google ads in addition to Facebook ads, you can take a look at your Google audience insights and take a look at what types of folks convert on the Google side, and they give you basically different interests in market, types of audiences.
Affinity.
Yeah, in market and affinity audiences that they fall into, that your converters actually fall into. So if you've been running Google for a while and it's time to launch on Facebook, take a look at your Google insights and see what types of interest they're in, and then target those interests on Facebook. So that'd be a good place to start as well.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing all this knowledge with us.
Awesome. I'm super excited.
Appreciate you.
This has been fun.
All right. We'll get you back on another show in regards to Things Paid Social, but we'll wrap it up.
Sweet. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Bye. All right. So after every episode, we're basically going to do a selection of 3 questions that we're getting from the guests, and making sure that they are giving the chance to win some really cool prizes depending on the amount of nuggets that were shared in the entire episode. This also gives you guys a little bit of a different angle in regards to the topic at hand. For the Facebook ads episode, we basically have 3 questions we decided on. So this is coming from Jess Park. She's actually part of our team because, us not being live with the podcast yet, we don't have a lot of listeners. So we had to source internally until you guys can actually be the ones coming with the questions. So she's asking, what is the Power 5? Does it work? And why did Facebook decide to make this change? Dennis was kind enough to answer and says that Facebook has improved their algorithm so much that success with ads is now simpler. A simpler ad account structure, smarter lookalikes, smarter tracking, and so forth. Most people, as Facebook and we have noticed, are screwing up their accounts by meddling too much, targeting too narrowly, and choosing the wrong objectives. We're seeing the exact same thing at KlientBoost, and it's something that you guys should really heavily consider. It almost goes against our marketing DNA, but it is much, much more impressive when it comes to the results that we're seeing. Tim Chard was saying, Power 5 is Facebook's overall recommendation of best practices for business owners advertising on Facebook. The Power 5 are, with my own opinions, he says, advanced auto matching. Yes, always a good idea. Account simplifications, sometimes be careful though, multiple countries with different conversion costs. Campaign budget optimization, CBO, automatic placements, dynamic ads. You can't use videos with dynamic ads, he says, which is one of the best drivers of e-com conversions, but great for retargeting ads though. So it sounds like he is also in agreement. And if Matt Nelson was here, which he's not today, on our side, he would basically be saying the same thing. It's not that every single type of advertiser will have this be beneficial for them, but it is a great thing to try out, especially if you can get a lot of volume and scale from a conversion standpoint. Awesome. So we have another question here. What are the best user emotions to capitalize on Facebook for the ads? Humor, scare, fear, are some better than others? Dennis was saying, depends on your product, of course, but whatever the case, have a 3-stage funnel, like we talked about in this segment, that helps people identify with what you sell to add value via stories and education instead of only sales messaging. Tim says over at Bell Curve, My ads normally revolve around a value prop rather than emotional appeal, so this is a tough to answer. If I had to pick one, I'd say FOMO, fear of missing out, on something that improves your time, earns you more money, etc. In other words, fear of missing out on a better life. The reality is a lot of ads are for products that, for the right person, does improve their life. But not to leave you all hanging, here's a common template I've used of FOMO plus humor. Ooh, exciting. Let's actually get a little extra nugget for that. Here's a simple example. We tested a FOMO with a dash of humor. Still using insert competitor or legacy product or service? Question mark with a smiling emoji. Try us instead. A lot can be summed up in that LOL emoji. Awesome. Last question we got here. Facebook seems to be notorious for randomly disapproving ads, sometimes account-wide, despite that those ads have been running for a long time. If this happens over a weekend, holiday, or it takes a long time to be reapproved, this can be pretty impactful for a business. For example, if ads go down during Black Friday, what is the best practice to proactively protect your business from Facebook disapprovals? Dennis says, get your ads loaded up well before the launch date. I can't tell you how many people hit me up 2 hours before their campaigns are to go live, worry about spend limits and disapprovals. A few days ago, a friend hit me up wanting to spend $20,000 per day for 3 days on a brand new account. It was a Saturday morning, which is not when Facebook staff are around to answer last minute, totally avoidable emergencies. Tim says, there's unfortunately not very much you can do proactively to prevent Facebook from disapproving already running ads. What you can do for those that haven't run, like for Black Friday, is publish a few days before to assess any violations. So similar answer. So we will pick a winner of randomly selecting those. Again, because it's mostly people from our own team that have been asking those questions, they're not going to get any swag. They already get plenty of swag. So waiting for you guys to actually go to boostsauce.com, which will redirect you to clientboost.com/boostsauce. In there, you can actually ask your questions ahead of time and be selected to be on the show. If we pick you, again, we're going to have t-shirts, AirPods, other types of products that we're going to share depending on, the volume of nuggets. So thanks for listening.